Okay, so we start out welcoming everybody to the podcast. So I'll start.
What are we calling the podcast?
Well, for now, it's still Oh Mama.
Okay.
We've got a brand to maintain.
Okay.
For now.
All right.
Hey, everybody. You're listening to episode 16 of the
Oh
Mama
and Daddy
podcast.
Yeah.
I'm Libby, and this is my husband, Nick.
Yeah, I was going to introduce myself. I'm Nick. Hello.
He's acting so chill right now. Who is that person?
I am so suave right now. This is how I am all the time.
Okay, so at the beginning, we give a little intro into who we are. So I'll start. I'm Libby. I'm married to Nick. I am from Virginia, Southern girl. I've lived all over the country. Wanted to be a movie maker when I grew up, and instead I'm a product manager right now in this life. I love dresses and anything pink. I think I could wear a pink outfit for every day of the year. I keep debating if I should try that challenge. And as Nick calls me, I am the quartermaster of our family. All right, take it away, Nick.
Let's see. I am Nick. I'm also from Virginia, born and raised, but I've spent a lot of time in a lot of different places. I love my family. I love my kids.
Oh, mama, the drama thick when you step in this whip. They like, oh, mama, the drama thick when you step in this whip. You now ride with Libby and Jess, and you about to get yourself a little blessing. They got plenty of lessons and even more children. They got stress every day that's building and building, but they still keep it clear with a fresh point of view. And if you tuned in, you about to get a little bitty clue of what it's like to be a working mom with fashion, and to love your kids and God with plenty of passion, and realize what it's like to be working so hard that you don't even feel like you got time for your squad, or even to write a letter to your mom or your dad. And if you ain't feeling good, then maybe you feeling bad. Well, these two ladies here for you, and they coming through this microphone, whether you at work in your whip or if you right at home. I hope you subscribe and never hide from the truth. You now rocking with the two illest ladies in the booth. Let's go.
So I'm happy to be here. I love...
Why are you here, Nick? Sorry to interrupt. We don't want to reveal everything from the get-go.
You mean that, like, metaphysically speaking?
What does that mean?
Well, I just mean, like, how deep does that question go? Like, why am I on this podcast? Or why am I on this couch?
I feel like we have to address the elephant in the room, right?
I don't know. I thought you wanted me here.
I do. So you are filling some pretty big shoes.
Good thing I have big feet.
Yeah. Not really. But my what do I call her now? I guess my original podcast co-host was Jess. And we had a good long run. Even through COVID, we made it out on the other side. But I think, or what Jess expressed to me was that, and I wish she could tell you herself, but she decided that, talking about her family made her uncomfortable, or her family uncomfortable, and so she decided that she couldn't do the podcast anymore, which was, like, on one hand, I get it. On the other hand, I'm really sad and wish we could have just focused more on who she is, but there could have been more to that as well of just, I was actually thinking about this. I was thinking about all the things that I could talk about on the podcast and the topics I'd be comfortable talking about. And then I imagined trying to talk about those topics with somebody new or somebody I just met or a friend I wasn't as close to, and it felt really awkward. Do you think that is a common feeling that people feel, like on social media or whatever, that they can be more open and honest than they can in person with, like, one other human being? I kind of like did a hard right turn.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Like, I think, first of all, I think this whole podcast journey for you and for Jess is, as someone who observed it, supported it, and so on, kind of from the outside. It means a lot, and I think it would be. I think it means a lot to each of you, and a lot of different kind of thoughts spray into my brain around. Life is rarely like straightforward to the point where things come to like clean stops and starts, and so like this is. Maybe this is just a pause. Maybe this is just a phase. I mean, Lord knows there were months and years without a podcast, and then a podcast was. And so I think with anything that, you're kind of experiencing creatively, you have to be open to how that unfolds. And, when things are worth it, you stick with them. And so I think that's a little bit of what you're trying to do here, and I am certainly an experiment on that front.
This is a trial run with you. You're auditioning.
I'm an intern. I'm an intern here. I think the other thing I was going to say was just as like the right-hand turn piece, I think was something to the effect of, I think you were talking about trust, and I think the reality of this podcast was the manifestation of your relationship with Jess, and I think it worked because you did have a foundational relationship and you did have trust, and I think the podcast became a muse, if you will, for you to kind of expound and explore that relationship. And so I can definitely understand why it's bittersweet to kind of be going through a season of change on that front, as well as to kind of be contemplating what it would look like to share trust with someone else like that. It's almost like you're like, oh, am I ready to date again? I don't know. Like, how's that gonna?
I already dated you.
Yeah, that's true.
And I trust you.
But
I'm trying to make my voice sexy and low and sultry like yours is right now.
Well, I will tell you, I've noticed I've started to have some gray in my goatee.
Oh.
Which...
why are you bringing that up?
Well,
does that make your voice lower?
I think I was going on the dim lighting thing, like I'm getting older, like maybe more wrinkled, like whatever's happening to me. And I think I like the gray. Like, I've never...
Of course you do. It's such a fortunate perspective.
Yeah, so sorry to be so positive.
It's so annoying.
I've never been able to
your
grow a full...
self-acceptance is obnoxious.
Chafing you, I'm sorry. As a man, especially these days, like beards are in, right? Like people are...
If you're a hipster, I guess.
It's not even hipsters. It's got to be... I would love to see the statistics. Like
how many men,
white men, not even white men, but how many men in the USA are rocking a beard these days? I mean, COVID must have
how many men in the
pumped
USA? Okay.
These numbers to really. Anyway, my point is I've never been able to pull that off. I'm very patchy, things don't connect like they should on a beard. So anyway, I think the gray actually somehow strengthens all of that. So I don't know.
You mean there's less difference between the beard and the sparse parts because it's a lighter color?
Sparse?
Sparse?
Sparse, I think, is the word.
Thank you.
I'm not sure what you're asking. If you're asking, what I mean by patchy?
No, I was asking what you meant by the gray strengthens it.
I don't even know. I think it's much more like an emotional response than it is any kind of
you look more distinguished?
Tactical coverage.
You mean you look more distinguished?
Sure. I don't know. I don't know how to. I think I feel a little grown up. I think, and you and I talk about this sometimes.
Male luxury to feel so isn't it great? I'm grown up. I'm mature.
I don't know. I don't know. Women can own that too. I mean, there's plenty of women that own that.
I'm exaggerating.
I think you and I are lucky that we got a chance to reboot our lives in such a way that, you know, there's some baggage and some scar tissue, but we're very blessed that we've been able to kind of maneuver through these moments with grace and ease. And so,
wait, what does this have to do with beards?
because I think we live pretty youthfully. Like, I don't think you and I look at each other or look at ourselves or think of ourselves as very old. I'm going to pivot, though, and say that I think we've been also watching a lot of Survivor, where, you know, like, I feel like somehow because of the combination of COVID and Survivor, I've now, like, I'm like, oh, this is what's acceptable. Like, you know, you barely eat,
like
you
haven't
don't
showered
shave.
in
That's
40
right. Yeah,
days.
no one cares. Just wear a buff on your head. You're fine.
When do you ask for my opinion of your appearance? Do you think that we are past that stage in our relationship that we each just like do our own thing without any regard for the other person's opinion?
Well,
Like in terms of our looks and appearance, I mean, sorry.
I appreciate the implication that your opinion is something that I have to ask for. I feel like there's a pretty steady flow of feedback on many
loop.
fronts. On many fronts. Though, yeah, I fully expect anytime you see me, like, cutting my hair wrong, wearing the wrong clothes, doing the things, I am expecting you to kind of give me the high sign. Though, admittedly, I think as my...
Let the court note that. Yes.
Yeah, admittedly, as, like, I have, like, gotten lazy with shaving through COVID and everything,
As have I.
I have not... yeah, your beard's looking good, though, I think.
I think you need to. I know I shared this with Jess, and on one of the podcast episodes, I shared, I guess, our origin story, how we got together, which included a pretty memorable first date. And you have retold this story many times for people, and I would love for you to share it now from your perspective.
You mean when we first met?
Yeah, at the Can. I think you were like one of my first real dates, and I just was scared.
I was light years ahead of you then. Like I'm
right.
doing this.
So you were swole with confidence.
I think it was good. I had some
Right.
things going on, and then
So I come into the Can. You chose the location.
well, you're missing a good part of the story,
Oh,
which
okay.
is like
Oh,
we
you
met.
canceled on me the first time.
Well,
That was the second time.
Yeah, there's a couple different things here. Like the first thing is like Match.com was terrible for this, but like you meet, you chat, whatever. And then I started by like inviting you to an abandoned warehouse. That was our first.
Yeah, how could I forget
That was our first thing. I was like, hey, would you want to like, because you were a photographer and I also did some photography
Dabbled
stuff,
in
not
photography.
as seriously as you. But I was like,
You
oh.
did assist me at a wedding later on our dating.
That was a bad choice. But like, yeah, anyway, like in my stupid single Nick head, I was like, oh, like I actually did like the idea of photographing like
photography
old
together.
decrepit buildings and, you know, turning them into coffee table
That'll be
books
a
or
good
whatever.
way to get to know each other.
And I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll invite her to an empty warehouse.
Show her how artsy I am.
Yeah, like how into photography. That'll be a shared interest where a single female will want to go is alone with a stranger in an abandoned warehouse on like the...
In
you know,
downtown Richmond.
yeah, like not even like in Churchill, you know, like not the good part of town. And then when you were like, how about coffee? I was like, oh, that's appropriate.
Didn't I say something like I prefer to meet people for the first time in public places?
Yeah, I feel like you went and looked up an FAQ for like what to do when being creeped in
But
a
I didn't
dating
turn you
site.
down. I still wanted to
No,
meet
that's
you,
right.
even if you
That's
were a
right.
murderer, just in a public place.
That's right. Like if you're gonna murder me, do it in front of people. So at least there's videotape, so my family can find me later. Yeah. So that was that, and then we met up at the Can, which I thought was great. Can was one of kind of my haunts. But yeah, we went there. I was really comfortable there, and I remember being really comfortable on the date. I think it was like a nice day. I remember thinking, wow, this girl's more attractive than her picture, which like I felt like never happened to me. So yeah, and I thought we like hit it off conversationally or whatever. I remember I we sat, they have these bar stools there. We're sitting on the bar stools, and I like had my leg up on your bar stool.
Yeah, you had your foot on my butt, basically.
Yeah, well, that's one of my things, feet and butts. Like, that's...
I would never let that fly now because I don't want your dirty shoe on my butt. But then I was like,
you were single
ooh.
Libby. You were like, whatever.
Yeah, single
right?
Libby was like, ooh, he's getting frisky, trying to touch my ass with his flip-flop.
Yeah, it was more
flip-flop.
like, I'm oblivious and this is comfortable and I'm just sticking my foot
whatever.
here.
You're trying to get close to me.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, I thought the conversation was good. I mean, the story I always told, and I told this almost immediately after the date. Like the next day, I remember telling this story to my buddies, my like 20-something buddies down at the river. You know, I don't know, we reached this part in the date. And you were like asking all these questions.
We talked about a lot of different topics.
We did.
South Park, like your rap music.
Yeah, you hit me with a lot of stuff. I told you all about like my family and all this other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that must be a red flag.
Yeah,
I think
like
that is what somebody would signify as a red flag, like note to self.
Yeah.
I was on a hunt.
I was like an open book, and I thought that was charming. Didn't realize it could have been so scary. But like, anyway, like at some point in the day, you just like looked at me and you said, "So, hey, on your I have a question about your profile." And I thought to myself, "Oh no! Like I don't even know what's on my profile. Like I know there's a picture of me catching a fish on there, which I thought was pretty impressive. But I'm not sure like what words are on there." And you said, "Well, you know, on the part where, you know, there's a box on Match.com, or there used to be, I don't know if there is now, where it talked about spirituality, and it only really gave you 3 options. It said like religious, spiritual but not religious, and prefer not to say." So, like, those are pretty generic buckets. And I have to believe that unless you're, like, really theologically in one place, like, most people probably say that they're spiritual but not religious in the way that they want to indicate that they are, like, open. Which I think is, like, a common strategy in these dating apps. Like, you never... I mean, unless you're pretty tight, like, you want to, like...
So maybe I should have been on christianmingle.com.
Potentially. Like, I think in many cases on these dating apps, you want to, you know...
But they have that choice.
Keep
I
your filters
chose religious.
Open. Yeah, I mean, it was part of their algorithm, right?
Yeah.
And so, but anyway,
So
the point was
much.
you, almost mid-conversation, you were like, "Hey, I have a question about your profile." I'm like, "Oh my God, what's she going to ask me?" And then you're like, "Has to do with, like, what you said about spirituality." And I'm like, and you're like, "So is Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior?" And I remember just being like, "What the?" But like almost instantly and straight-faced, I said to you, "Well, he's in my top 3." And I think in my head, I was like, "Man, I nailed that. Like, I totally nailed that." And I could just see it like wash over your face, like the deep, like...
Disappointment.
Yeah, it was disappointment, but I think it came so quickly that you were almost like, "Wait, what did he say? Like,
Did he make a joke?
Did he make fun of me there? Like, what? No, I'm serious." I think between that and some of the red flags, like, almost immediately, you were kind of like, "So, like,
We'll just be friends.
You work at this place, right? Like, I'm looking for a job. Oh, you're a volunteer chair? Do they need pictures?" Like, you immediately turned it into a business transaction.
Networking meeting.
To which then I responded by saying, "Oh, well, like, I guess this isn't working out. Maybe we could, like, let our kids hang out." To which you were like, "No."
Yeah, when we were saying goodbye, you said, "Well, let me know if you ever want to do a play date."
Yeah, I mean, that was like, well, first of all, like, I don't think you appreciate how hard it is to be a single dad trying to, like, get play dates.
I didn't.
Like,
but
it is
I
the
was
most
like,
awkward
"Boy,
thing in the world."
I don't have time for play dates. I'm trying to find a husband.
Yeah, you're trying to bag a man. Anyway, and so, like, the next day at the river, I tell this whole story. I'm, like, high-fiving people over my top 3 Jesus Christ comment. I'm like, "Yeah, I killed that." And then I genuinely felt like I had a really good date.
It was a really good date because we stayed there for like 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at one point, I'm like, "Hey, do you want to go get food?" And you're like, "I can't drive right now."
No. When we sat down I think I said something like, I like burgers, and I'd already had a glass of wine, and you said, well, we could just leave here and go get burgers, and I said, I can't drive because I had a glass of wine, now I need some food, and I'm not getting in the car with an axe murderer, so till you've proven yourself safe and devoted to Jesus, so.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not like that dramatically different than what I just said, but that's okay. Like, yeah, so
Okay,
anyway,
okay.
like the date was great, and I remember walking away from it and telling my friends that like it was a success. Like I felt like as single Nick, I'd had a date with a woman who I thought was attractive. We got along. We ran into some differences, and we were both able to walk away from the event, and I felt better for it. Many of these dates, you leave yourself thinking like, oh, like, I guess she wasn't that great, but like, I don't have anybody else, so I gotta like see this thing out, or you end up like, I don't know, settling, or they're settling, or whatever. You don't walk away feeling great. And so that, maybe that was a good thing or not, but I remember saying that to them down at the river with the boys.
And did they say you should ask her out again?
No, I think at the time the JC bomb felt pretty solid. Like, oh, like I'm not, that's a pretty big deal. And so at the time I interpreted that as the deal breaker, like the reason why we might not connect. And so
I couldn't forget about you, though. I couldn't stop thinking about you.
yeah, well, I have that effect.
And I figured eventually you'd come to Jesus. So
Yeah, well,
I came a calling. And
that's
you
a weird
made me
way to
wait-
frame
You made me
things,
wait
but-
for 4 days before you replied.
Oh, well, I had some things I need to sort out.
You did not.
I did.
You mean telling your lady friends you couldn't see them any longer?
A lot of things in motion,
Oh, please. So you were just playing a hard to get game.
Yeah, I think you're giving me too much credit. I mean, I do think that, like, there was something to you sending me an email a year, like, you're glazing over some points here, right? So after
it was a
this,
follow-up to me sending you my resume
that's
for a
right.
job.
Like, after this date that turned into a business transaction where I became like another Pokeball that you could call on.
I had to maximize all of my interactions
all your
and
touch points.
connections.
I understand. And so then
I was a single mom.
Yeah, that's
Nick,
what's so
living with my parents.
Yeah, you were really suffering.
I was a lady in need.
So I wrote to you and said, "Hey, it was very nice meeting you. Here's some information that could be helpful. If you need this, that, the other, da da da." So this very nice email I sent from my work email.
Yeah, and you didn't get me a job, so then I had to come back to you.
I don't do that. I'm not good at the whole like.
Well, let's
Actually,
not
the
go
only
there.
time-
That's been a point of contention.
Well, the only time I actually did it for someone I didn't mean to, and then they got shit canned like 5 weeks later, and I haven't talked to the guy since then because I think he felt like ashamed for.
Yeah.
It's just a weird spot to be in, but you get $1,000 out of it, I guess.
Did you?
I think so.
Wow. Okay. So that was a good retelling, but you still thought it was like fun to talk to, interesting. We had good chemistry, just like talking,
of course.
and
Yeah. It was delightful.
it was hard to find that. Like I couldn't find that with anybody else.
Yeah, well,
So I knew it was
I'm
something
incredible.
special.
Yeah, I'm incredible. So
Yeah. Like, I literally told my friends, like, my stay-at-home mom friends at the time, I don't think I'm ever going to want to kiss a guy again for the rest of my life, let alone all the other stuff. So,
you then proceeded to go on 30 dates
I went on
after
a lot
that,
of first
30
dates.
different
It was
dudes.
painful.
Not at once, right? Like,
Not at once.
yeah.
I'm not that crazy.
But one of them for 12 hours.
There was one long
12-hour
super date. I had trouble, just not with dates, but I do have trouble saying goodbye. Like I feel like I'm always a really awkward
It's the secret to our relationship.
goodbye.
Couldn't say goodbye.
Yeah. So guess what?
What?
My sister and her family are moving to Richmond.
That is pretty crazy.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it'll be amazing. I think they'll be our best friends. They are our best friends, right? What? And we'll have babysitters. Why are you laughing?
Because I think for me, I have a very different relationship with my sister and my family.
Yeah, that's different.
And so, yeah, like for you, it's just weird to be like, my sister's moving here and we're going to be best friends.
Well, she already is my best friend.
Right. But, I think.
But you and Jared can now be best friends.
Yeah. I mean, I think any of those statements, it wouldn't even have to be your sister. If you were like, Jane Seymour was moving here and now we're going to be best friends.
With her and Sully? That would be incredible.
Who's Sully?
Aren't Dr.
Zhivago?
The
Dr.
medicine
Quinn?
woman.
Dr. Quinn, medicine woman?
You just said Jane Seymour and you don't know who Sully is?
I don't know Sully. Sully's the guy from Monsters, Inc.
No, he's like her love interest with the curly long hair from Dr. Quinn.
Medicine woman.
Yes.
Sully is the guy from Monsters, Inc.
Oh
I think it's the big blue guy.
Whatever his name is. Scully, maybe.
Scully,
No.
that's the X-Files. It's Mulder and Scully.
All right, go on.
She's the Handmaid's
So you
Tale.
don't think we'll be best
she
friends?
looks like her though, doesn't she? Like
Who?
the girl from the Handmaid's Tale is
Elizabeth
like
Moss does not look like Jane Seymour.
no, not Jane Seymour, Dingo. I'm talking about Scully.
Don't call me Dingo.
Okay.
Ooh, Gillian Anderson.
Anderson,
or whatever.
yeah,
I
they're
can see
basically
that. I
the
can see
same
that.
person. Yeah. They're like super pasty.
Yeah. Yep.
Only attractive in the eyes of certain people, that kind of thing. Isn't it weird how you could like be a celebrity, be ultra famous and popular, but like
Not be beautiful?
not fit the traditional mold of like aesthetically pleasing to a ton of people? I find that interesting, and I'm not talking about these people that are
it's
like
healthy and good, right?
sure.
And they're not just playing the side character, like she's the lead. Like we've always had, side characters, supporting characters that are quirky or not super attractive, but like the leading character is always supposed to be super attractive.
Sure, yes, that is an element of that, I guess.
Hey, we haven't talked about spring break.
Spring break!
We gotta give the people, which, by the way, our 9-year-old son has already forgotten. It was like, 3 weeks ago? We went for a whole week. We drove down to Florida, stayed in Savannah, and then did 2 days in Disney, 2 days in Universal. And the other day, David goes, what are we doing for spring break? It feels like a lot of pressure to plan this fabulous trip.
Yeah, maybe. I think for me, the fact that we could like be in a car for 10 or 12 hours at a time and not absolutely want to murder each other, and we can go do Disney and Universal and do it in the way that we did, which was, it felt fairly intense. People were tired and, it's not as if we like...
It was a rigorous trip for our children.
That's right. And so like... It wasn't to say that the trip was not, it was absent of any drama, but like it did not feel. I've been in other situations with my family and in previous lives where like you kind of look at yourself like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I on this trip? This is miserable. But I don't feel that way with our family, and so it gives me confidence to say like, let's go wherever. Like we can figure it out, which is a nice. And it might have been a byproduct of COVID. Like, Lord knows, we survived all this stuff now, and we're
high five.
Like one big party of six, So, yeah, no, it was great. It was expensive. It was great.
Let's give best and worst of, maybe just best even, of Disney and Universal. So Disney, we went to Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios to see Star Wars.
That's right.
I really liked Hollywood Studios. I thought it was the least crowded. It could have been the day that we went.
That's right.
Least crowded, had like the cleanest bathrooms, like because it was the least crowded, like the food and everything, beverages seemed more accessible. And then Star Wars was really awesome. The rides were amazing. And the other win was the Minnie Mouse ears. We got those on the second day, and I highly recommend getting those the moment you walk into Disney for the first time so that you can enjoy wearing them the entire time you're there.
Yeah, that was not a big lift for me, but I can... And
then the one thing I'll say as an improvement was we talked about it later and wished we had taken a day off like in between Disney and Universal, or, had 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, because the kids especially were so wrecked and tired, right? I mean, I feel like after day 2, they, complained that they couldn't even walk anymore.
We also had 6 kids, one of whom
6 kids.
Sorry, 6 people. One of whom couldn't ride all the rides, and so we had also this like divide and conquer thing. So when people ask me the difference between Disney and Universal, of course, has a different spin on this whole like fast pass concept. They basically just gouge you and charge you double for the right to go into these fast pass lanes, which are
absolutely.
probably faster,
but not double the price faster. Maybe.
Yeah, not well. I mean, I think the thing
unless you have 4 kids and it'll take you 24 hours to see everything in one park.
I think the thing that is missing in that is if you're going to charge that much money, I think you expect a premium experience and not just faster than the next guy. I think you expect like, no kidding, I'm paying double the price. I expect to kind of be like. And walking up to the rides.
Right. You still had to wait in line. And then a lot of times we wondered, is this, fast pass lane any shorter than the other lane? It seems like half the people have paid for fast pass. And we're the dopes. But everybody who worked there kept assuring us that the fast pass lane was shorter.
I think the Harry Potter stuff was... pretty incredible, pretty amazing, and I think kind of well worth the price of admission.
Okay, let's go over favorites. At the end of each episode, I like to share the things that I am really loving in the moment, because I always appreciate other people sharing their favorites with me.
In terms of favorites for me right now, I would say one is our favorite band, The Head and the Heart, just released their new album called Every Shade of Blue.
Tiebreaker is the best.
We have one. Their Rivers and Road song was our first dance at our wedding. We have it like in fluorescent lights above our bed, so we're in deep, and so it's been. This is kind of their post-COVID album, so it's been exciting. So we're listening to that. I think other favorites for me are really been digging back into vinyl and reliving some of the experiences of trying to find my favorite rap albums and getting the things on vinyl and taking the time to listening to them. I think there's something we've lost with kind of the digitization of music and the proliferation of streaming services is this notion that you do have an album and you sit down and listen to an album kind of front to back. You don't. But
you can skip on the record player. You just have to pick up that needle and move it, which I did the other day.
Wow, yeah, that is very true. I think, however,
light bulb.
It's a game changer. Thank you for that insight. Yeah, but I think the vinyl experience is just in addition to all the other things that you get on a record, from the artwork to the inlays.
Okay, make this quick and snappy.
Holy crap! Okay, the other thing I'm really digging, the 2 other things is just coaching my son's soccer team. That's fun. So really enjoying that. And then on the fitness side, I'm doing some Muay Thai kickboxing. So shout out to the Phoenix Fitness folks over in the Short Pump area off of Broad Street.
Yeah.
Renee and Ethan Chandler run that place, and they are a super cool story, and it's been a great way to like learn something, be active, and also let out a little bit of aggression.
And have time away from your family.
Yeah, for sure. Get that balance.
Okay, for me, mine are much more like, what do you call them? Material. So one is I'm digging cropped tees and tanks. I didn't really think I could wear them.
You took mine. That was one I was cropped tees.
I took your cropped tee. Yes. I didn't really think I could wear them, Nick. I need you to look at me. I didn't really think I could wear them, but I do love the high-waisted shorts. And if they're high enough,
It works well.
yeah, then the shirt kind of stops at the top of the high waist, and there might be a little bit of midriff, but not really. So I feel like I got a great one, like this tie-dye one from Stony Clover Target collection. This is high-end.
Yeah.
And like a J. Crew 90s crop tank, which I really like. So liking that, I think it's a flattering look to not, if you're going to wear a high-waisted pants, to not have your shirt kind of fall over it or always have to tuck it in. So I like that. Also love the Stony Clover letter patches from Target. They look like sew-on patches, but they're stickers. You could sew them on if you wanted to, and they've got a glitter outline, and they're so pretty. Thanks for being here, baby.
Yes, of course. I'm always here, actually.
Yes, you are always here. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, of course.
I love you.
I love you too.
And I hope you'll come back.
Oh, mama, the drama thick when you step in this whip. They like, oh, mama, the drama thick when you step in this whip. You now ride with Libby and Jess, and you about to get yourself a little blessing.